Filtering is a way to remove undesirable frequency content from a dynamic signal. So for example, if there's noise at a particular frequency, a filter might be a way to actually remove that noise. We're going to start by defining an ideal filter. And an ideal filter, and any filter, is really defined based on its magnitude ratio. So similar to what I was doing with Bode plots, I'm going to plot the magnitude as a function of frequency. And so an ideal filter will have a band where that value, that magnitude response is 1, and it will have some bands where that magnitude response is 0 down here. So this point where the magnitude is 1 is called the pass band. And that's the range of frequencies that are allowed through the filter. So a magnitude ratio of 1, you can effectively imagine this as multiplying the signal that you have. So any frequencies in this area, in this regime, are going to be allowed through the filter unchanged. The stop band is going to be down here where the magnitude is 0. And similar to what it sounds like, this is the range of frequencies not allowed through the filter. And then finally, this transition point right here where I go from my pass band to my stop band, we're going to call omega C. And the C in that omega C can stand for a lot of things. Most relevant for filters is cutoff. It would be the cutoff frequency, but it could also be more generically the corner frequency of my filter. And that's defined at that transition between the pass band and the stop band. So a filter is going to have all three of these elements. It'll have a pass band where frequencies are generally allowed through the system, a stop band where frequencies are attenuated or removed from the system, and corner frequencies or cutoff frequencies defining the frequency transition between those two pass bands, between the pass band and the stop band. And an ideal filter, that pass band is going to be 1. Things get through perfectly. That stop band is 0. Things don't get through at all. And the transition between those is a vertical line. It is immediate. Real filters are obviously going to differ from that in a number of ways. So there are a number of different types of filters depending on where those pass band and stop bands lie. First one that we'll talk about is where this pass band occurs at low frequencies and the stop band is at higher frequencies. So what this is telling us is that lower frequency content is allowed through the filter, higher frequency content is not. So this is what we call a low pass filter. Low frequencies are allowed to pass through. In another type of filter, the pass band will occur at higher frequencies and the stop band is at lower frequencies. So in this case, high frequencies are allowed to pass through the system, whereas low frequency content is completely cut out of the system. And similarly, this filter is going to be called a high pass filter, where high frequency content is allowed to pass through. Then of course we have more complex varieties. In this case we have 2 transition frequencies or 2 corner frequencies that define a band of frequencies that is the pass band. In this case I have 2 stop bands on either side of these transition frequencies and a pass band in the middle of them. And this is called a band pass filter because I'm only allowing frequencies in this particular band through the system. And this is very common. All of your cell phones have something like this that allows only the kind of frequency, the carrier frequency that you're talking on, for example, through your cell phone. I should mention some applications for some of these other ones as well. High pass filters are great if you have some low frequency drift in your sensed signal value. And so you can just implement a high pass filter with a fairly low corner frequency. So you get most of your frequency content through, but that low frequency drift, and maybe that's due to temperature variation or something, goes away. Low pass filters are often the most common kind of filter because you're generally looking at lower frequency content, and so you can ignore just all the noise that comes in at higher frequencies. So I'm looking at my low frequency signal and ignoring anything above that. And the final kind of filter that I'll mention, a final type of filter, is effectively the inverse of the bandpass filter. In this case, we're letting all frequencies through except for a band of frequencies defined by these two corner frequencies here. And this is called a notch filter. This would be great if I have frequency content that's being coupled into my signal where I know exactly what that frequency content is. So say the 60 hertz signal that might be coupled in from line power, I can define a notch filter with corner frequencies around 60 hertz. So everything else gets through, but that 60 hertz signal is cut out of my signal. And these filter types hopefully can also give you a really nice picture as to why it's really handy to look at your signals in terms of the frequency content, right? Because I can define my filter based then on that frequency content. If I know my signal only contains frequencies below 4 kilohertz, I can just set up a low-pass filter and ignore any frequencies higher than that because I know it's not going to be relevant to my signal. If I only have signals at a particular frequency of interest, I know they're only going to be occurring at, let's say, 45 hertz, then I could set up a bandpass filter so that I'm only looking at those frequencies of interest. But once again, a really nice, a really compelling reason to look at signals in the frequency domain as opposed to the time domain.